Hello and welcome to BloombergQuint. Hi, this is Nikki, and NMDC has posted a 8-fold jump when it comes to the profitability. Even in terms of operational performance year-on-year basis, we've seen nearly 3-fold jump, which is way ahead of Bloomberg consensus. But what's the road ahead looking like? Let's find it out from the management of the company. Let's bring in Mr. Sumit Deb, who is the CMD of the company. Hello and welcome to BloombergQuint, sir. I'm going to start off by asking you about your operational performance, which has been, which has seen more than 2.5 times jump, at least when it comes to year on year. How are we looking? What kind of operational performance are we looking at Q1, and what sort of realizations can be expected going forward?
Good morning, and thank you for having me here. So the previous financial year was an exceptional performance, and that was despite the COVID pandemic which struck us in the first quarter. So despite that, we have there's been an excellent performance, and especially the Q4 numbers are very good. I mean, they have beat all for previous quarterly figures. And going forward, we do believe, in fact, Q1 was also affected partly in the month of April and May because of COVID. We lost some production there. However, we are trying to catch up, and June we should do, July we should do better. So things should be going forward. Things should be much better in this financial year. Our production is also expected to go up substantially.
In terms of a blended realization, which was up by as much as 65% year on year, that's also because of high component of exports coming in. Could you please help us understand for this financial year, what sort of export volumes can we expect, and what sort of realizations can be expected?
So NMDC is not, we're not really focused too much on exports. We do have around 2.5 million tons to Japan and South Korea. Under the government of India, there's an agreement which is in place, and based on which we also get 20% concession in terms of the duty also. So which is not available in this financial year. So our exports in this current financial year will be, if it is viable, we'll export. Otherwise, the exports we are focused currently only on domestic market. So domestic market, the realizations have been very good. In fact, the last quarter also it has been very good. So we do believe our focus is more on the domestic market, and realizations to that extent should continue in this in the current whatever we are seeing.
Mr. Deb, what sort of moderation can we expect in export volumes? If you can put a percent to what is the expectation in this financial year, and how much was the percent of the overall mix in the last financial year?
So last financial year, we did around 2 million tons, slightly above 2 million tons. So this year, we have not put a number to that, and we will only export. Look at the market conditions, and then look at exports, because then there's a duty of 30%. So it needs to be viable on that count. So, however, our focus, like I mentioned earlier, it's entirely on the domestic market.
So can we expect the number to be, just a little curious understanding the number, will this number look like 1.5, a little maybe southward to that? Any ballpark estimate that you can provide us with?
So we are looking at 1 million tons exports, and that to Japan and South Korea, Japan specifically, if there is, the markets favor us. So it is not really, on our, currently it is not on our target.
Okay, so that's almost half the exports target that we are now looking at in the next financial year because of the duty which has come in. Also, if you could help us understand the price differential in the domestic as well as the international prices, given that there is a lot of things happening in China, and hence by virtue of that, there is a lot of volatility that we're looking at in international prices too.
So from our perspective, if you look at the domestic market, the domestic prices are much better than what we get in exports. After paying duty of 30%. So our focus is entirely on domestic to that extent. If you look at the international prices, the Chinese prices have seen a lot of volatility, like you mentioned. Going forward, the Chinese government is also intervening in this on the prices. So. But then we have seen some flattening of the prices also. The prices are, but then above 200, the prices continue to be above $200 currently, and we think that this should be the norm.
So you say the price differential. I'm so sorry, I didn't catch that. What is the price differential between the domestic and the international prices, sir?
So as far as NMDC is concerned, the domestic prices are better. I mean, realizations on the domestic in the domestic markets are much
By how
better
much?
than should be around 500-600 rupees.
Per ton. So do you expect this gap to go widen going forward, because we're seeing some amount of correction coming in sometimes even in international prices? So where do you see this price? Do you expect the differential to widen in the favor of domestic prices going forward? It's a 600,000 rupees per ton kind of range that we can look at for the entire financial year.
The current differential I was talking of is for the previous financial year. Going forward, the differential should increase in favor of the domestic markets, definitely.
Okay, and also I'd want to understand what is the price differential that you have as compared to the other Odisha-based companies. Because these companies have been ramping up, and I read few notification which said that they probably produce more than the kind of regulatory clearances that they had. So clearly, we're seeing some amount of excessive supply coming into the markets with this. Do you think there is a further scope of price hike coming in the domestic markets?
So what had happened in Odisha, the prices have been going up mainly because of availability issues. However, now with most of the miners ramping up production, we should have, and even the government giving permission for captive miners to sell their own production. Odisha is seeing an uptick, and going forward, we should see a little bit of flattening of prices to that extent in Odisha.
Okay, I also wanted to understand, there is an amendment to MMRDA Act, because of this royalty rates resulted in an impact of around 1.5 billion in this fiscal of that quarter. Are we looking at any more such impact coming in when it comes to the royalty rates, or we have contained that pretty much in this financial year?
So there's no change in the royalty rates per se. I mean, the royalty continues to be 15% on iron ore. However, the government, as per that MMDR Act amendment, they are saying they have told that any mine renewal post 2015 will attract 150% of royalty as a premium to be paid to the state. So that will have to be paid. So that effect continues to be there now.
Okay, I wanted to understand a broad-based perspective of what do you think the impact would be going forward on the domestic iron ore prices, given the kind of situation that we're looking at China, because at one point of time they want to curb the production in steel, and there are other places where they'd want to encourage some iron ore production. So, there is a mixed surrounding of sorts when it comes to the whole Chinese scenario. But domestic prices, as I see, which is also a part of your presentation, they've kind of doubled up, right? They've gone from 2,800 at the start of the financial year to around 4,000 now. With this, what kind of prices can we expect maybe by this financial year or quarter one? Because we're expecting some amount of moderation already coming in because of, on-ground scenario. Has the demand situation, maybe moderated a little bit with the kind of monsoon effect that has come into play?
So what has happened is, the domestic markets are in no way, they do not have too much of a relationship with the international prices, except for the fact that a lot of low-grade ore gets exported, 57 and below gets exported to China, which the domestic market generally doesn't use. So to that extent, that's what get exported. However, having said that, if you look at Orissa, you look at our NMDC pricing, what has happened basically is the one was this effect of this premium of 22.5%, which has also has had an effect on the prices, and the other part of it was demand supply scenario. So going forward, we do not see too much of headroom, but then obviously there is some looking at the demand. We see some sort of prices stabilizing.
Okay, I just want to touch base on the demerger divestment of the steel unit. If you could just let us know when is that going to take place, because, there's been a lot of talks and chatter around the whole steel plant. What's the status right now?
expected in this current calendar year. We expect the demerger of the steel plant to take place as a separate holding company, and the commissioning also of the steel plant is expected in the same period.
When you say this financial year, could you be specific in what month can we look at the demerger?
Somewhere around October.
Okay, so we'll leave it at that. Thank you so much for taking out the time and speaking to Bloomberg.
Thank you. Thank you.